Isn't it interesting that the meaning of what we live in these days of Hajj leading up to the day of Eid, and the day of Eid is the day of Qurban, and the Qurban means a sacrifice to bring me close. That's what Qurban means, from Qurb, a sacrifice that brings me close. Why? Because there's no closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without sacrifice. There's no closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without sacrifice. Just like Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam taught us, a life of Qurban, and finally the actual test of Qurban of his son. And so in these days, Hafidhakumullah, of the meanings that I really must have is this idea. What in me, what in this nafs, in this low base part of me, what must be sacrificed that stops me from connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What am I going to give Allah as my Qurban? What attachments prevent me from Allah ta'ala? What attachments are haram? What words, what habits, what deeds? What friendships? What friendships at one level I must sacrifice or diminish or minimize? What friendship? What digital friendship? What digital addictions? What is my Qurban? What am I going to sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to have my Eid with Him? Isn't it interesting that the day of Qurban is the day of Eid? Isn't it interesting that on the day I sacrifice is my day of happiness? The day of my sacrifice is the day of gift, is the day of happiness, is the day of farah, the day of ecstasy, the ever returning happiness with Allah Ta'ala. Because the essence of Eid, as you know, Hafidhakumullah, is Eid with Allah. Eid is not about essentially good food and good clothes and visiting. Eid is Eid with Allah, the Eid of my heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.